Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Welcome to today's reading from Brilliant as the Sun, a retelling of Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, the Sages of Naimisharanya. And today we will be reading from the last chapter of Canto 1, chapter 19, Shukadeva Goswami Appears. Parikshit leaves his kingdom to pursue self-realization and meets Shukadeva Goswami. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Jai. Parikshit leaves his kingdom to pursue self-realization and meets Shukadeva Goswami, whom he questions as to the best course of action for one about to die. Chapter 19, verses 1 to 7. As Parikshit entered his palace, he repeatedly castigated himself. Surely he was civilized and impious. Surely he was uncivilized and impious. Summoning his ministers to the court, he described to them all that had happened. In anguish he concluded, "Oh, what a wretch I am! Let my kingdom, wealth and opulence be burned up in the fire of the sage's wrath, so that I not again commit such sin." Trying to reassure the king, one minister suggested that since the sage would not know who had garlanded him with the snake, maybe there would be no consequence. Parikshit shook his head. "In my heart I know I will receive a severe reaction. Better it comes soon, for then I shall be free from the burden of sin and the possibility of committing another grievous offense. Other advisors suggested that if he were sure the sage would know he was the wrongdoer, he should immediately return to the hermitage and beg for his forgiveness. "Your offense was not great, surely he will excuse you." Parikshit was confused. He sat with his head in his hands. If only the wise Kripacharya was still with him. Just then a disciple of Shamik arrived at the palace. After informing Parikshit about Shringi's curse, he said, "O king, when he learned of the curse made by his ignorant son, Sage Shamik scolded the boy. Not seeing any solution, he has fallen into grief. With a sorrowful heart, he has sent me to advise you to make necessary preparations for your soul's progressive journey." When the disciple departed, Parikshit turned to his counselors and said, "I do not think it is wise to now seek the sage's forgiveness. By so doing, I may simply embarrass him further. I do not even desire to negate the curse, which I consider most beneficial. I am now inclined to give up my material attachments. Indeed, it is my firm determination to completely fast as of this moment. Kindly make arrangements to enthrone my son, Janmejya. I shall immediately proceed to the Yamuna's bank and there concentrate my mind on Lord Krishna." The ministers cried out in sorrow and tried to dissuade Parikshit, but he was resolute. Discarding his royal robes and covering himself with a single cloth, he left his palace accompanied by brahmanas. No one recognized him, thinking him to be an ascetic. Walking barefoot and carrying a staff, he headed out of the city toward the river Ganges. Staff is that danda the sannyasis hold in their hand, and when we offer our obeisances to Bhagwan or the seniors, it's called dandavat. That's in a way falling straight like a staff or falling straight like a danda. He arrived mid-afternoon and after bathing in the sanctified waters, seated himself on the soft sandy bank, pretending to remain there until his death. Intending to remain there until his death. Lesson chapter 19, verses 8 to 12. In a short time, thousands of great sages, along with the disciples, as well as many celestials and saintly kings, also came to that place. They had heard of the curse and, desiring the king's good, had hurried to assist him prepare for death. Parikshit recognized many of them, as they had previously visited his palace at the time of religious rituals. He had often performed great ceremonies which even the gods attended. Gods here stand for the demigods, the Devi Devatas. He recognized amongst the gathered assembly personalities including Atri, Vashishth, Vishwamitra, Vyas, Maitreya, Parashuram, and even the great Narad Rishi. Parikshit received them all by bowing his head to the ground. After the august visitors seated themselves around him, King Parikshit stood before them with folded hands and told them of his decision to fast to death. Chapter 19, verses 13 to 15, he said, "I'm extremely grateful to you all for coming, as I know that generally you great souls consider worldly king like myself to be like refuse, fit only to be rejected and left in a distant place." The river flowed gently by, its rippling currents sparkling in the afternoon sun. White swans moved among the reeds, and cranes stood in the shallows, watching for the fish. The cries of birds and other forest creatures could be heard as the king continued to speak. "The Supreme Lord has graciously overtaken me in the form of Brahmana's curse. Knowing me to be too attached to worldly possessions, he has appeared in such a way that out of fear alone I will detach myself from the world. O great ones who know everything, I take full shelter of you and of this sacred river Ganges. I have already surrendered fully to the Lord in my heart. Let the snake bird or whatever magical thing the Brahmana conjured bite me at once. I only desire to hear about the Supreme Lord's divine acts. Please therefore recite those to me." Chapter 19, verses 16 to 24 now. Once again, offering prostrate obeisance to the sages, Parikshit prayed, "Please bless me that even if I take another material birth, I may have unstinting devotion to Krishna, association with his devotees, and friendly relations with all living beings." From the heavens, the gods showered him with flowers and beat celestial drums. The sages were so pleased that they praised Parikshit, saying, "Excellent, very good." One of the sages stood up to speak on their behalf, saying, "O saintly king, it is not surprising that you have such determination to achieve Krishna's eternal association. Coming as you do in the line of Pandavas, we have all come to assist you." Parikshit bowed his head in humility, feeling insignificant amidst so many exalted personalities. He said, "My dear sages, you have kindly assembled here, coming from all parts of the universe. Every one of you is as good as Lord Brahma, who is supreme knowledge personified. You have no business in this world other than benefiting others. I now ask you about my immediate duty. After proper deliberation, please also tell me the responsibility of one about to die." Vyasadeva, Narad, and other senior sages sat to the back and listened as various sages advised the king. One lean Brahman stood up and spoke. "Your determination to attain Krishna's eternal abode is commendable. Yet by abandoning your God-given duties, you have acted against your own best interest." A bearded hermit said, "Renouncing duty to pursue a life of ascetic meditation is always auspicious. You have done well, my dear king, to leave your family and prosperous kingdom." Still another mendicant spoke. "Both of you venerable ones speak wisely. However, the king wanted advice specific to himself. He has only 1 week left to live. He does not have sufficient time to successfully execute all the vows of a mendicant. Maybe he would be better to continue to rule his kingdom until his last moment. In this manner, a debate began amongst many of the sages. Should the king follow the path of ascetic renunciation, ascetic, I don't know, I should be saying ascetic or ascetic, I think it's ascetic. Ascetic renunciation or adhere to his kingly duties. Listening to them, Parikshit felt disheartened. These debates could take much time to resolve, and he only had 7 days to perfect his life. Chapter 19, verses 25 to 40. At that moment, he heard a commotion coming from behind me. All the sages stopped talking and rose up with respect. Turning around, Parikshit saw a naked youth walking toward him, surrounded by a throng of irreverent women and children, all jeering. The young man remained peaceful, undisturbed by their derision. What is derision? The newcomer was strikingly handsome. His complexion was dark like Krishna's. His eyes were wide and his nose raised. Curls of blackish hair fell around his smiling face. His limbs were long and finely formed, and his movements graceful. The sages, recognizing him as Vyasadev's son, warmly greeted him. "Welcome, Shukadeva Goswami. We are blessed by your presence." Shukadeva returned their greetings by embracing some, shaking hands with others, and bowing down to his respected elders, including Vyasadeva and Narad, who had remained seated. Parikshit bowed his head in respect as Shukadeva took his place among the sages. The women and children who had been mocking him were astonished, and they quickly dispersed. Sitting among the other sages, Shukadeva looked like the moon surrounded by stars and planets. Parikshit had previously heard of Vyasadev's exalted son. It was said he never mixed with worldly people longer than it took to milk a cow, preferring to remain absorbed in spiritual trance. Understanding the great favor Shukadeva was bestowing on him by coming at this difficult time in his life, Parikshit meekly greeted him. "My dear sir, we are sanctified by your presence, which transforms everywhere into a holy place of pilgrimage. It is by your mercy alone that I am able to see you today in my hour of greatest need. By simply remembering you, a man becomes purified of sin. Surely it is due only to my relationship with the Pandavas, who are so dear to Krishna, that the Lord has favored me by sending you, the spiritual master even for great saints. I therefore beg you to show the way of perfection for all people, and especially for one about to die." Smiling, Shukadeva began to answer. So this is the end of Canto 1. I feel so honored that Lord has given us Makar Sankranti, which is also Lodi festival also is today. And on Makar Sankranti we are going to we have finished our Canto 1. And if any of you have got any further questions or anything, please write in comments. I'll be happy to share with you. And as it's rightly said in first canto, 2nd chapter, verse 16 in the purport by Srila Prabhupada, that eagerness to hear about the God is the first qualification of a devotee eligible for entering the kingdom of Lord of God. This is from Srimad Bhagavatam, 1st canto, 2nd chapter, 16th verse. And it's been absolute honor to have read the first canto, a retelling of Srimad Bhagavatam. Brilliant is the Sun by Krishna Dharma Prabhu and Chitamani Dham Mataji. And next time we will commence Canto 2 reading, written by the same authors. I wish you all a very happy Makar Sankranti today. And